You open a message and don't reply. You think about starting something small, and somehow you wait. It's not hard. It's not complicated. So why does something so simple feel like it needs a decision? And more importantly, why does it feel heavier than it should? Problem deep dive. It happens in ordinary moments. You want to send a text, but you reread it, adjust it, delay it. You think about starting a task, but instead you prepare mentally. You think about how to do it right, when to do it, what it means if you do it now. Minutes pass, sometimes hours, not because you're distracted, but because you're paused. There's a subtle tension, like you're not just deciding what to do, but how to do it in a way that feels correct. Even small actions start to feel loaded. Replying becomes, am I the kind of person who responds quickly? Starting becomes, am I doing this seriously or casually? Everything feels like it reflects something about you. So instead of acting, you hesitate, not out of laziness, but because the action feels defined. And that's the part most people don't see. You're not avoiding the action itself. You're reacting to what the action represents. But why does your brain treat small actions like they carry meaning? Reframe. You're not slow. You're not unmotivated. And you're not overthinking for no reason. What you're experiencing is something more precise. Your brain is attaching behavior to identity. Instead of seeing actions as temporary, it treats them as signals about who you are. So even a small decision becomes important because it feels like you're not just choosing an action, you're choosing a version of yourself. And when every action feels like it defines you, your brain becomes careful, deliberate, sometimes stuck. This isn't a flaw, it's an adaptation, especially if you've learned at some point that how you act changes how you're seen. So your brain tries to get it right, but in doing that, it turns simple things into meaningful ones, and meaningful things are harder to start. Psychological mechanism. Your brain is built to create patterns. It links behavior to identity through something called self-concept formation. In simple terms, your brain watches what you do and uses it to answer the question, who am I? Now, normally, this process is flexible. One action doesn't define you. But when your brain becomes more sensitive to identity, it starts over-interpreting actions. This is influenced by cognitive fusion, where thoughts and meanings become tightly linked. So instead of, this is just a message, your brain reads, this says something about me. Now add another layer, decision weight inflation. Your brain assigns more importance to choices than they actually carry. Why? Because it wants to avoid making the wrong move, especially socially. So even small actions trigger evaluation. Is this the right version of me? Think of it like this. Every action becomes a vote for the kind of person you are. And if you're not fully sure who that person is, voting feels risky. So your brain delays the vote, not because it can't decide, but because it feels like the decision matters too much. But the reality is, most actions don't define you. They pass, they dissolve, and your brain can relearn that. Practical framework. 1. Shrink the meaning of the action. What to do? Remind yourself this action is not a statement, it's just a moment. Why it works? Reducing perceived meaning lowers decision weight, making action easier to initiate. Example, instead of thinking, this says something about me, you think, this is just a reply. 2. Separate action from identity. What to do? Mentally say, this is something I'm doing, not who I am. Why it works? This breaks cognitive fusion and reduces identity pressure tied to behavior. Example, you send a message without overthinking tone because it doesn't define your personality. 3. Use imperfect first moves. What to do? Act before refining. Allow small actions to be slightly unpolished. Why it works? It weakens perfection-based hesitation and builds tolerance to incomplete action. Example, you send the message without rereading it 5 times. 4. Time limit your hesitation. What to do? Give yourself a short window, 5 to 10 seconds, to act. Why it works? It prevents the brain from entering extended evaluation loops. Fast decisions reduce overanalysis. Example, you decide, if I think of it, I do it within 10 seconds. 5. Redefined consistency. What to do? Stop trying to act the same way every time. Allow variation. Why it works? This reduces pressure to maintain a fixed identity and makes action more flexible. Example, some days you reply quickly, other days slower. Both are acceptable. Integration. Here's the simplest way to see all of this. You don't hesitate because the action is hard. You hesitate because it feels like it means something. But most actions don't carry identity. They don't define you. They don't lock you into anything. They're just movements, temporary. And when you start treating them that way, they become lighter, easier, almost automatic again. Quiet, empowering close. You don't need to figure yourself out before you act. You don't need to be certain of what it says about you, because not every action is a reflection. Sometimes it's just a step. So the next time you pause before something simple, notice the weight you're adding to it, and gently remove it, just enough to move. Because your life doesn't become clearer by waiting. It becomes clearer by doing things that don't need to mean so much.